great Odin's raven.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
This is ridiculous. Okay, I'll go.
Hello and welcome to the FilmPulse.net podcast. This is episode number 65. My name is Adam. Today we have Ernie with us. How are you, Ernie?
I'm doing great, Adam. How's it going?
It's going great. Today we have a great show lined up. First we'll be speaking with director Joe Granato on his film It's Dangerous to Go Alone, which is our Kickstart Sunday project of the week. Then we'll be talking about some of what we've been watching, followed by a feature review of Iron Man 3. And finally we'll be going over this week's movie predictions and DVD and Blu Ray releases. First, let's get right into our interview with Joe Granato, talk about It's Dangerous to Go Alone, which is a documentary about one of my favorite games, The Legend of Zelda. Let's take a listen. Let's talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So the title is It's Dangerous to Go Alone, the movie.
Yes, sir.
And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what this is going to be about.
Okay. Well, a little history about how it sort of transpired and came to be. About 2 or 3 years ago, I was working on another film with my production company up in Baltimore. And I don't know, it was one of those times where we all were sitting around drinking and at a bar and sort of realizing, wow, you know, we are ingratiated into adulthood now. There's no escaping it, you know, or this guy can't come on film set this day because he's got to work a second job so he can pay for a mortgage, and this actress had to drop out because she just found out that her and her husband are pregnant, and we got to work around this person's wedding schedule and everything. And we started laughing about it, and it became a big joke. Well, coincidentally, the same weekend, me and my production partner up there decided that we wanted to sort of have a return to our youth, and neither of us had ever beat Zelda 2 when we were kids. Mm-hmm. We had it, we played it, we were big into the Zelda-verse, but we never beat the game, and we're like, that's criminal, you know? I mean, we've grown up playing these games, and neither of us have ever beat that game, and so we made it a mission. We sat down, we said, we're going to play this game until it's done, and we we ended up acting like little kids, idiots. We didn't even want to drink. We were like ordering pizza and soda and cursing at the TV and these juvenile curses. And we just started laughing about it. We're like, wow, that's really amazing. You know, how playing this game could take us right back to that age. It erased all of the worries and all of the chaos and stuff of our current lives. And all of a sudden we're right back to that age. And the only thing that's important to us is beating this game and saving this fictional world. And we just laughed at even, with all the advancements in gaming, those pixelated sprites and things like that still compelled us to have that same kind of reaction. Mm-hmm. And that's where the seed was planted. That's where we started this might be a cool thing to take on. I don't know how we'd approach it, but we should really do a documentary on Zelda. Not like a history lesson, not something that people could find just online on YouTube, but really sort of get to the bottom of why this series has sort of lasted, why it survived so long. And so that kind of planted the seed. That was about 2.5, 3 years ago. And then when I moved, I sort of I didn't want there to be a lot of time between film projects. And I'm all alone down here. When I first got here, I didn't know anybody, any other filmmakers or anything like that. So I said, it's time to do a documentary. What kind of documentary do I want to do? And then that same guy called me up and said, why don't you just do that, man? Do that as a documentary. You should do it now. Now's the time. And so I agreed. I said, now is the time to do this project. And I started doing all kinds of research, and I started looking into, all things Zelda, just hitting up different people that I knew from throughout the years and different filmmakers I knew that worked on Zelda-related projects that I kind of knew through common friends or acquaintances. And then all of a sudden I found all these artists, and I found, best-selling authors, and I found the illustrator for Google is even this huge Zelda fan that works Triforces into all those little Google logos that pop up for like the 4th of July logo for Google. It'll have like stars and stripes and things like that, but then in the bottom left corner you'll see this little Triforce that no one really notices. And and I just started thinking, wow, now that is compelling. That is a way to approach this story. We were kids. All of us were, some of us when the first game came out were 6, 7, 8 years old. Now we're adults. We're creatives in our own right. We're artists and musicians and filmmakers and business owners and some of us are still paying homage to that franchise. Some of us are still inspired by that and letting it sort of inspire our work. and it's really an interesting thing to think about. And so we decided that's the approach we're going to take. We're going to really investigate why the series is so compelling. Is it, now there's the argument is, are those games considered art? And why those games out of all the rest of them? Why are they so compelling? And then we sort of concocted a dramatized narrative that's going to sort of tie all of the mini documentaries together, which I think a lot of Zelda fans are really gonna kind of appreciate. So that's the story in a nutshell.
First of all, I'm a huge Zelda fan. My dog's name is Zelda. I've loved the games ever since I was a little kid. So when I first saw that this was on Kickstarter, I was instantly drawn to it. And I think that it's interesting that you're having kind of a different take. Like you said, you're not just talking about the history of the game. You're kind of talking about the fans and the people that were really affected in a positive way with this game. And it sounds similar to me, if you've ever seen the Comic-Con movie, the Morgan Spurlock documentary, where he kind of gets into all these different facets of Comic-Con.
Sure.
I actually saw that at Comic-Con with Comic-Coners, and that was probably one of the highlight experiences because you're amongst them. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is about us."
yeah, exactly. And I'm actually sort of hoping that it's one of the reasons that we're crowdfunding this rather than going through more traditional we have a couple of pretty significant offers, way more than $50,000 on the table as far as producing the film. But there's a couple of reasons we're trying to crowdfund it first. First of all, for that exact reason you just said, we want the people to feel like they're part of this film, not just passively watch it, which is why we kind of made the webpage the way we did as sort of a game. It's, that they get to be the hero and adventure through the discovering about this film. And also we really don't want to have to appease anybody who invests into this film in the long run either. We want to make the film that we want to make. We want to make a film that we want to make for and not have to worry about, trying to recoup the money for an investor or anything like that. So I think that's one of the reasons I think Kickstarter is a really good source to get income for this. Gets the word out to potential fans. They feel like they're part of it. And I mean, a lot of these fans that are contributing money to it, they would have bought the DVD anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like they're pre-ordering the DVD, which is nice, but it also helps us not have to rely on an investor to put out the film.
Right, absolutely. And I did want to touch on the website. People should definitely go check out this website because essentially you created a game on the website.
Yes, sir.
And
you got to play it. Yeah, it has to be on a PC or a Mac. I mean, it can't be on a mobile device right now. But if you get on with a PC, there's actually a playable game there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's thezeldamovie.com for those. That's
the
site, right?
thezeldamovie.com. I don't know. Have you guys played it at all?
I have, yeah.
We tried to.
You're talking about the site game or Zelda itself?
Yeah, the site game. I'm sorry.
Guilty. I have played neither. I'll probably get kicked out of the room for saying that. But.
Oh no, you're not alone. You're actually not alone. It's really funny. There's a couple of guys out on the West Coast that also do sort of a podcast, and there are people who don't play, have never played a Zelda game.
I think that's criminal, Ernie.
And they do a game podcast.
But when I was young, I wasn't into RPG style games. I was more about the button mashing and
sure.
And Blades of Steel and stuff like that. It wasn't until later that I got into RPG style but it was like that was in the N64 into PlayStation 1 days. So I was like, that was done.
Well, I think that actually brings up a good question. Like, do you see this movie creating fans? Do you think that it will entice people to go out and play Zelda?
Well, that's a good question, and what I'm hoping is sort of the short answer is sort of I hope so. Since we decided that we needed to tell this in a narrative way, not just string together a bunch of interviews. We needed a narrative sort of hero's journey style story to tie it together because that is Zelda. I mean, that says the Zelda franchise. So we want to make it enjoyable for people who've never touched a game or aren't even into video games in general, but this might be still an interesting film to watch. They won't get all the inside jokes. They might not appreciate it as much, but it should still be enjoyable to watch, and it hopefully will, foster some curiosity. and people who've never played the game or whatnot. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the incentives that you have for this this Kickstarter project. Maybe highlight some of the ones that you're particularly proud of or want to entice people to get.
Well, absolutely. There's, the only reason we haven't put a digital version of the film on there is because we're still working on some logistics about it, and I don't want to promise something that we can't give. There is a digital situation in the works. I'm not going to talk any more about it yet. It's a really cool one, so that's why I'm not going to blow it early. There's like 3 huge pieces of news I can't talk about, and it's driving me nuts because they're really exciting, and people would really get into them, and it would really drive people to the site. But I promised I wouldn't talk to them, and the biggest one I can't talk about until the middle of June, which is after the Kickstarter's done. So that's frustrating. But anyway, we think that the actual game box, which will actually be in a NES-style game box with a NES-style manual, which will sort of be like a DVD insert, but in the style of an NES-style manual with a little story of the movie, and then images, probably all 8-bit and illustrated. We think that's a really cool thing that a lot of retro gamers would really enjoy.
Oh yeah, that's definitely cool. And then you have also like the standard DVD packages and all that stuff, T-shirts and that type of thing as well, right?
T-shirt, poster, DVD, Blu Ray. We've said DVD because same kind of thing. It's probably going to be a choice of the DVD or a Blu Ray for that price point, but we know we're going to get DVDs, and we know DVDs will work for everybody, whereas Blu-rays won't. So I guess after the fact, I wanted to change it to DVD/Blu-ray, but I can't get back in and make the alterations. So in the frequently asked questions, the film will be in HD. I can talk about one thing that's not listed on the Kickstarter as far as digital distribution that you guys might be into, or that your listeners might be into. One of the ways that we are going to release the film, and we hope that it's a very unique and interesting way that Zelda fans will appreciate, is we are going to make an actual game that is a sort of a metaphor for the film, a game metaphor for the film. Not like an 8-bit game like you see on the site. It'll be a lot more polished than that. But there'll be a mobile version and there'll be a standalone version that people could buy. And what it is it's going to actually be a non-linear version of the film, where basically the beginning sections, the end sections are sort of they're standard. You have to unlock a certain things to get to the end, and the beginning you're shown at the beginning. But the whole middle part, plus a ton of bonus material, is going to be interspersed throughout this adventure game that you're going to actually. So it's going to be a playable movie essentially, where you're going to be able to unlock different parts of and it's going to have bonus material there too. So that's the way that we're really excited about getting this out there. We haven't talked too much about it yet because we're still working on logistics, but that's definitely happening. It's already in the works.
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah, before the end of the Kickstarter campaign, we'll probably be showing a short video of just that, not even a playable version, but someone using the iPad to show basically how it's going to work.
Okay, so you have 27 days to go as of this recording, and you're looking for a $50,000 goal. Can you tell us a little bit about where you stand as far as the production right now? You have absolutely begun production.
And I'd really like, if you wouldn't mind, to touch on the $50,000, because there's been a couple of people who have questioned that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who have never made a film before that might be scratching their head saying, $50,000. Oh, you could make a documentary for $3,000. It's true. You can make a really inexpensive documentary these days with a DSLR and whatnot, and they are done. But when we're talking about something of the caliber that we want to be able to do, we're not making a sort of a talking heads over YouTube video style documentary. We're actually doing a very in-depth personal sort of one-on-ones with creatives all over the country. So a lot of that production budget is going into our travels. So when you're talking about having to travel to a dozen cities, rent a crew in all those cities, rent gear in all those cities, it gets pretty pricey. And we know that at $50,000, based on what we've spent so far, just covering some stuff on the East Coast, we're going to be under budget at $50,000, and we're going to be sinking more of our own money or more investor money into it after that. And we're okay with that. We're $50,000 is reasonable. For instance, the the My Little Pony documentary that just got made was funded for like $200,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a My Little Pony documentary.
Oh yeah.
So I'll tell you what, if My Little Pony documentary, if $200,000 is a reasonable amount to raise for My Little Pony, I think 50 grand could make a worthy Zelda movie.
Absolutely.
It's a reasonable amount. But anyway, we have done a lot of production already. Some of it was sort of first draft, first run through to see if there was interest. For instance, we did a lot of stuff in Atlanta. Atlanta, if you didn't know, is probably the Zelda capital of the country.
Really?
I wouldn't have known that, but there's so much fan work that has originated out of Atlanta. The Hero of Time movie is from Atlanta. All those guys are from Atlanta. The fan feature-length film based on Ocarina of Time. Zelda Outlands, which is a actual NES hardware playable ROM hack. You can actually port it to a cartridge and play it, and it's really, really good. He lives in Atlanta. There's a software company called 8-Bit that they were the coolest guys that we've met so far. They catered us when we came to visit with them. They have spreads of food out, and they have the coolest space in downtown Atlanta. They're all huge Zelda fans. There's an artist named Chris Veal who he does all this 8-bit pixel art, but it's all painting. It's all he basically paints these pixelated images, and a lot of them are 8-bit NES and Zelda themed. All in Atlanta, all in one town. So we did this whole weekend up there. It was really cool. We've done a weekend in Miami with the Symphony of the Goddesses and the creators, and they're really cool guys too. We're going to actually meet up with them again to get some more footage because we had such a good time, and we want to get a deeper interview with them. We've done some stuff in New York, and we're going to go back up to the city, trying to actually get into, I don't know if you guys know, but Museum of Modern Art up there right now has a gallery featuring video games, classic video games.
Yeah.
And we're actually trying to get in with a couple of them and sit down with them and talk to them about their perception of early gaming as art, and where those 8-bit games sort of fit in. Not necessarily Zelda, but definitely include Zelda in that conversation. So, we've done a lot already, and we've got a ton lined up, and it's kind of like we're just waiting for the travel budget to get west. We've got stuff to film in LA, Sacramento, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Colorado. We've got some stuff we're definitely going to Austin, Texas. So there's stuff all over the country we want to hit. We keep adding more every day. If we reach some ridiculous stretch goal like $100,000, we'll end up going to Japan if we can afford it. So there's a lot of stuff done and a lot of stuff still left to do.
Great. So completion date, any ideas?
I really don't want to say.
Okay.
Right now, we've been saying December. We're going to be sort of done with what I want to call sort of a first draft. And what I mean by that is we are, like I said, the primary way that we want to release this is with that game, that app. And I don't think that's going to be ready by then. But we're hoping to have a 90-minute version of the film through our digital distribution channels and at least out to press for our DVD, Blu Ray, or creating the artwork for it, et cetera. The film and the editing will be done by about December. But that all depends on the Kickstarter. If funding goes through. If not, we're still going to do it, and it's probably going to take a little bit longer. So.
Okay. All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us.
Thank you guys, man.
Thanks again, Joe. The film is It's Dangerous to Go Alone. Be sure to check out the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the show notes and also on the Kickstart Sunday section of the website. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about some we've been watching. I think I'll kick it off this week. First up, I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because I saw it the day that we recorded, but I did see Michael Bay's Pain and Gain.
I still haven't seen that yet.
I'm not a fan of Michael Bay. I don't particularly like really anything. I like The Rock, okay, but not a big fan of Bad Boys. We talked about it on the show last week. But I actually liked Pain and Gain. I didn't think that it was anything amazing, but I thought that Michael Bay was more restrained in this than he has been in recent memory. Does he still have like 1 second shots, cut to another shot, 1 second, no shot? Yeah, he does. There's a little bit of that. I mean, he does some of the spinning camera stuff that we saw a lot of in like Bad Boys 2.
Mm-hmm. Did he have at least have a Will Smith, Martin Lawrence moment where they're getting up from the bottom of the frame and the camera's spinning around them?
No, it wasn't anything that crazy. There was one that I'm thinking of where he kind of did that with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock kind of standing there and the camera was spinning around them, but I don't think it came up from underneath or anything. But I thought it was funny. It was crazy because it's a true story, and I know that some of the elements were embellished for the movie, but the broad strokes were all true, and to me that's just insane. This story is so crazy, but I actually did really enjoy myself. I thought that this was probably the best performance that The Rock has ever done, and I like The Rock, but
Right.
I thought that he was hilarious, and I like when The Rock and Mark Wahlberg do comedic roles, so I was definitely into it. I thought it was really funny, and it's not anything amazing, but I do recommend checking it out.
I definitely plan on seeing it.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. Gina was supposed to review it for us, but she didn't get it to me yet, so we still don't have a review up on the site. But hopefully that'll be up sometime. Then I saw Sun Don't Shine, the Amy Steinmetz film.
Okay.
This is playing on demand right now. I believe Kevin talked about it last week, and I got a chance to see it this week. I think that this is her directorial debut. I thought it was okay. It's about a couple who is on the run from the law, and they are in Central Florida, and it's definitely an indie. I'll say that. I mean, it's got that indie feel to it, pretty much textbook, but it is still well shot, well acted, and for fans of indie dramas, I would say it's probably worth a watch. I saw Five Fingers of Death, which is a kung fu film from 1972.
Nice.
This was part of my Grindhouse Weekly feature. I really enjoyed this. I think that by today's standards, it wasn't anything special, but as I was watching it, I was kind of trying to imagine if I had never seen a martial arts film before, because that's kind of the way it was when this movie came out. This came out before Enter the Dragon. It came out before all the big Hong Kong action flicks, before they hit the States. This was kind of the one that started the craze. And it's decent. I mean, it's exactly what you think of when you think of a 70s kung fu flick. It's got... Is
it more about the fights and story is secondary, or is there actually an attempt to make some sort of story?
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing, is that there is a deeper story in this than most of them, but it's not... It doesn't get convoluted or anything like that. It's a fairly simple story. I think that Enter the Dragon has a more simple story, but I still think Enter the Dragon is better than this. And that's why a lot of people haven't even heard of this, because Enter the Dragon came out the same year as this. And as soon as Enter the Dragon hit theaters, this was pretty much forgotten. And but I do recommend checking it out, especially if you're an old school action fan.
Yep, I will definitely do that.
I caught a couple documentaries this week that were screening at Hot Docs. One of them is called Bending Steel, and it's a documentary about old-time strongmen. And at first, I was like, that doesn't really interest me at all. But after watching it, I mean, this is a solid documentary. I was pleasantly surprised.
It's old school, what era? Like 20s, 30s?
I mean, it's a modern time. Basically, it's about this group of guys that are trying to bring back the old time strongman, like steel bending, horseshoe bending, that type of thing.
Kind of like the circus style.
Exactly. And that's part of what they're doing, is they're trying to revive this kind of lost art, if you will. And they're trying to put together a performance to do on Coney Island. And it's interesting because a portion of the movie took place in my hometown of York, Pennsylvania, which I thought was interesting because my hometown has a company called York Barbell, and it's a really famous company that makes barbells. And there was this portion of the movie that took place there, and I've been to the Coney Island Sideshow many times, and that's where another large portion of the movie took place, on Coney Island. And it was really interesting. I like movies like this, and I feel like there's been a lot of documentaries over the last few years that have had the focus be on some sort of interesting job or someone that has a weird hobby. I just feel like there's been a lot of movies like that. And the thing that always kind of elevates these movies from being something of just like a weird oddity to watch is strong characters. And this movie has a really strong central character. I believe his name's Chris Sheck, probably pronouncing his last name wrong, but he's a really interesting guy. He's really nice and articulate, and that really kind of made the movie more enjoyable to watch. Then I saw Tales from the Organ Trade, which is a documentary about illegal organ trafficking.
I'm intrigued already just by the title alone.
Yeah. This is it screened at Hot Docs. It's an HBO documentary, so I would imagine that it's going to be on HBO in the coming months. Very interesting. I mean, I had no idea. I mean, you hear stories about illegal organ trading, but you never really, you don't know the whole story until you see this movie. It's incredibly interesting. And like before seeing this movie, I was just like, oh, that's a very grim topic, and like
so it's more in line of reality based and not like that urban legend organ donor kind of.
Oh no, it's
thing.
It's all. I mean, they interview people that received illegally traded organs. They talk to brokers that set up the deals between them, and they talk to. There's entire villages in the Philippines where everyone donates a kidney for money.
Wow.
And it is so interesting. It's just a fascinating movie, and it really kind of shows two sides to this. Now, before seeing it, I just thought to myself, well, it's terrible. Like, how can there be two sides to this? It just seems like the worst thing ever. But after seeing the movie, you realize that it's not a black and white scenario, that there are aspects of it that kind of make it seem like it's not such a bad thing. I mean, if the person donating the kidney receives enough money that he can buy a house and start a business to, feed his family, and the person receiving the kidney has their life saved because of it, is it such a bad thing?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean,
I know there's the whole thing, it's like you wait in line and all that stuff. It seems to make sense.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting. I mean, it raises a lot of questions, and it's quite interesting, and I highly recommend that whenever it comes out. I did see Which Way is the Front Line from Here, which is a documentary about the photojournalist Tim Hetherington that was killed in Libya. And this is actually available. This screened at Hot Docs as well, and it's available on HBO right now. So if you have HBO, you can check it out on HBO Go or whatever. It was pretty good. It was directed by the guy who did Restrepo, because Tim Hetherington worked with his name's Sebastian Younger. They worked together on Restrepo.
That was nominated for an Oscar, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it won, but it was nominated. It was pretty good. It was obviously very sad because he was killed, but it, more than like being a well put together substantial documentary, it felt more like he was just kind of making this more for like his friends and family, kind of to honor him. So it was good, but it wasn't like anything. It wasn't on the same level as Restrepo, put it that way. And then finally, the only other one I wanted to just briefly touch on is The History of Future Folk, which is it's an indie film that I believe won, I think it was the Audience Award at last year's Fantastic Fest. And this is a science fiction musical comedy about an alien that comes to Earth in order to destroy it, and then he discovers music. And instead of destroying Earth, he starts up a bluegrass band.
Okay.
And if that sounds ridiculous, it is ridiculous, but at the same time, I loved this movie. The music is great. I can't speak highly enough of it. I believe it hits theaters May 31st, and I'm not going to get really deeply into it because I think we're going to be reporting more on it later. We are in the process of speaking with the directors of the film, so we're going to have more on it later. But
it sounds like something Alex Cox and Werner Herzog would make together.
I mean, definitely worth checking out. I mean, it's a light film. I don't think it's rated, but it probably would be like PG-13 or something. It's not violent or anything. It's just very fun, and highly recommend checking that out. But stay tuned. We're going to report more on that later. And that's pretty much all I have besides Iron Man 3.
All right, cool. Well, I've been pretty busy over the last week or so, hitting film festivals and doing a lot of the repertoire cinema that LA is known for. But I started off with the United Film Fest, and my reviews are on the site. First one of interest was Park City, which is a light comedy about a group of filmmakers going to Sundance with their one and only print. And when they get there, they lose the print. It was that's almost like a nightmare situation. And I was like, it seemed a bit of a stretch because it's like Sundance requires that the material be there like a week in advance. But then my friend Calvin corrected me. It's like, no, there's been instances where people showed up like minutes before their screening and got there, and it's like, oh, so it really can happen. It's like, all right, then okay, even better. But it was pretty entertaining. It was basically like I mentioned in my review, it was like The Hangover goes to Sundance. So it's like instead of being a straight up comedy of errors, it's like, oh my god, what do we do? Events unfold like it's The Hangover. So which is no fault of theirs, but it's still kind of entertaining. Then to tie in with our Kickstarter program, there was one called Your Friend's Close, which is kind of a video game type of narrative. It didn't really work. I mean, there was stuff going on that was interesting, and you're wondering, where's all this going? Why should I care? But once they reveal what it's all about, you're like, eh. But then I was thinking it would have been more effective if they still had the same ending, but took a different route. Because as I'm watching the movies, like, without giving away, it's like, I really have a feeling this is not what it seems, and there's more to it. As I'm like watching more characters appear, listening to what they're saying, I'm like, yep, I definitely think there's something going on here, and it's going to be revealed at the end. When they reveal it, I'm like, I'm not a filmmaker, but I kind of like what I was thinking. So, I mean, if you do happen to check it out, and you'll get your own ideas, but in the end, it just didn't come together. Another one of interest that I saw was Sadermania, which is a documentary about wrestling and Hulk Hogan. A fan as a kid of wrestling grows up and over the years develops a very close, tight friendship with Hulk Hogan. It's like, and it was like pretty interesting, pretty entertaining. Even celebrities have to have their regular Joe friends to keep them grounded. And it was like pretty cool to see these two as like really are friends. It wasn't just like some setup or anything for a wrestling arc or anything like that, but these guys are actually close because you see them get through some really, really hard times together. So it was like, wow, that was cool. So that was the film fest. And then I spent a lot of time hitting the repertoire cinema that's constantly rolling out all kinds of movies you want to see. Like I got to see The Untouchables in the Cinerama Dome, which is one of 3 existing Cinerama theaters in the country, I think, which is really sweet seeing that in the theater again. I don't know if you ever seen a silent film with live accompanied orchestra.
No, I haven't.
I saw the original Phantom of the Opera and a German expressionist film called Morn to Midnight with a live orchestra.
Wow.
The orchestra is called Alloy Orchestra, so the orchestrations are not your typical. I mean, if you've seen a silent film on video, it's got that typical piano accompaniment or anything like that. And like it has like usually the piano accompaniment is incongruous with what's on screen. Like it's supposed to be hard. It's like dee, 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 dee. But these guys did a whole new theme that really adds a new dimension to the movie itself. And what I really loved is like at certain times is like where there's an action cue on screen or a sound supposed to come up, they actually play a cue to tie in with that, like a doorbell ring. I was like, oh, that was cool. That was really entertaining. Also, there was an animated film came out in the early 80s called Twice Upon a Time. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
No, I don't think so.
I had a certain history that I was kind of aware of, but it was really interesting to finally see this because I guess now I've finally seen it for the first time. But when this came out, it got lost in the shuffle because of business dealings and company possible bankruptcy and all that. It was an animated film. It was done, locked, ready to go. It was put into release. Prior to its release, the studio or producers wanted to avoid this being just like a saccharine G-rated animated feature. So they wanted to beef it up a little bit so they could attract a more adult audience. So they just said they had the actors come in, re-record dialogue, and load it up with profanity. Which was like, wow. And then it was released, and parents were upset beyond belief because it's like characters are saying ass, shit, and all kinds of other racy dialogue. And then the movie was yanked and never put back out. So pretty much the movie bombed because it's like, yeah. But the director was like saying, it's like, I knew about it. I knew what they wanted to do, but there was really nothing I could do. So stepping forward to its VHS release and HBO release, it was shown on HBO, but nobody checked to see which version they had. So the version that aired on HBO was the uncensored version. And I believe that is the version that I saw all those years ago. So I think I kind of vaguely remember thinking it was kind of funny that these guys are cursing up a store. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I love this. But I had no idea there was an alternate version until they just screened it out here. And it was like a whole different movie. It's like two instances of one character says asshole, I think, and another one says shit. But I think those are the only two incidences that got into that cut, which was supposed to be the fine. And I was like, oh, that was cool. That was interesting. I kind of enjoyed it. And then I looked, I think the unrated version's on YouTube. And if you look at it, and right off the bat, you notice the difference. Like the villain in the beginning, the villain is like trying to give a speech to his minions. And it was like a pretty generic speech, kind of entertaining. But then in the unrated version, he's like, hey, I know you guys want to do this. You want to do that. It's like, no, all I got to say to that is tough shit. Like, whoa, that is so different from what I just saw. So it's definitely a interesting piece. I know the unrated version is the only one that's out there right now. On the cut version, they're really trying to push Warner Archive to get released on their MOD program. So hopefully that happens, and they're hopefully trying to get both versions on there. That was fun. Then I saw Ricky O, the story of Ricky, probably one of the most outrageous, violent, bloody.
I have that on DVD.
Martial arts movies. That was a lot of fun to see with an audience. And then the other day, Escape from New York, which was shown in a brand new DCP, which looked fabulous. But the highlight was that they were able to get Kurt Russell for a Q&A. And he never does Q&A, so that was really cool. He was a lot of fun to talk to, or listen to, and stuff like that. The other one I saw was, besides Iron Man 3, I just saw Generation with Keanu Reeves and directed by Mark Mann. Haven't posted my review yet because I'm still processing the movie. It's very much an indie film. And it's basically just like takes these characters and you're wondering who these people are, and they're talking about stuff, whining about stuff, and you're basically like, why should I care? And they're going through that movie. It's like, why should I care? What are they? Why are they complaining? Who are these people? And why can I not stop watching?
So you're saying it's like a Richard Linklater movie?
Definitely like that. And you're wondering who these people are, and you're like listening to this stuff, and there's like some, like, it's well performed, and there's like great dialogue and like great scenes. And once it gets to the end, it's like you're floored. It's like, I don't know why I was floored. But you're like thinking as you got to the end, you're like, whoa, wait, wow, really? It makes sense, but wow. It's like, so I'm still trying to process. It's like, okay, I kind of didn't care about these people, but I'm still intrigued about what's going on. And when it all became clear, I'm like, that was crazy. I still don't like these people, but it still makes sense.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I'm vaguely interested in that. I do want to check that out at some point.
And so that was pretty good. So that pretty much wrapped up my week of nonstop movie watching.
All right.
And,
Well, let's go ahead. Let's get right into our thoughts on Iron Man 3. The Iron Man 3 is directed by Shane Black. The synopsis says, when Tony Stark's world is torn apart by a formidable terrorist called the Mandarin, he starts an odyssey of rebuilding and retribution. The film stars Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall, Jon Favreau, Ben Kingsley. Am I forgetting anybody? There's a ton of people in this.
yeah, there's a lot of people.
I guess, okay, so you reviewed the movie for the site. That's up now. I think I'll start it off. I read your review after I saw it and kind of formulated my own thoughts because I didn't want to be influenced in any way. And I pretty much agree with everything that you said in your review, actually. And I think that there's a lot of nitpicks that one can make with this movie, but
They have small and big ones if you're a fan.
yeah, oh yeah,
But
definitely big ones if you're a fan. But it didn't really bother me. I mean, I was thinking of these nitpicks in my head as I was watching the movie, but the fact remains is that the tone, the quality, and the action scenes alone made up for all of that for me. I had a great time with this movie. I was extremely entertained. I thought that the action scenes were incredible. I wanted more of the action, and I think that the final scene at the end, and we're not going to give any spoilers away. If we think that it's necessary, we can do a spoiler section maybe after we do the main review here. But I thought that the action scene at the end was worth the price of admission just for that. I mean, it was pretty incredible.
it was incredible, and it's insane, but orchestrated so well that you're never lost on what's going on, because there's so much going on in that finale. There's like simultaneously there's like something going on over here with Rose, something going on over here with Pepper, something going on over here with Stark, and it's all like, it's not a mess, but you're like, okay, it's like you're able to totally follow everything, and it just flows very smoothly, and it's really exciting. So, I mean, people were like, in the theater, people were like on edge. It was like, I remember seeing people jumping up and down and so forth a couple times. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And one thing that I want to touch on that I thought was what made this movie so good was the fact that Tony Stark the character has fundamentally changed since the Avengers. And I think that with Shane Black deciding to go that route, I think that just enriches the entire story. I mean, I might even go as far to say that this could completely enrich the entire Marvel movie universe if they decide to do the same thing with Thor and the new Captain America, where it's like there's consequences to things, and the fact that they explored the results or the outcome of the Avengers and how that has changed him as a person. I think that's really interesting that they did that.
Yeah, because often you see like a movie where they save the world, and then the next movie there's like they never really show anything happening. Like even in James Bond, it's like, okay, it's like, nope, you stole Bond. Yeah, I did that mission, but there's really nothing. I mean, sure, with the Daniel Craig one, the scars of Vespa are still visible, but it's never really played up as it was in Iron Man 3. And I agree with that. I totally love the fact that they did that with his character. And it was like, I thought that was the richest that Stark has ever looked in all 3 movies, or all 4 movies.
Yeah.
And it was like, I really love that there was like, even by the 3rd movie, they were willing to really flesh him out even further and make him even better. So I was like, I definitely think that after 3, he's definitely going to be a changed person for whatever incarnation happens next, whether we don't see him again until Avengers 2 or whatever. But
yeah, and I think that's so interesting how they can evolve the character. And I mean, with so many of these superhero movies, I'll use Wolverine as an example. In every movie that we've seen Wolverine in, he's the same character. There's really no like evolution of how he thinks, like the psychology of him. And I mean, maybe
Yeah.
Wolverine's not
Yeah.
a good example because of just
Oh,
who the
no,
character
he
is.
would be because he's essentially immortal. And if you saw X-Men Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine, you see that he lived through the Civil War. He lived through World War II. And if you happen to see the trailer for Wolverine, he lived through Hiroshima.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like you never see how that impacted him because he just lived through three of the hardest, like toughest moments in human history, and you're like, just shaves it off like he just cut himself, and then it heals over and moves on.
Yeah, and I think that's what is so intriguing about this with this film that I didn't expect. I mean, just how he's trying to cope with what happened to him. I mean,
and really, like in like a actual character, not like it was like whatever, move on. It's like there's some deep stuff there.
Yeah, and I mean, we all know that the character of Tony Stark is flawed. He's always been flawed. But I think that adding this, like, if it's PTSD or whatever it is, adding this in, I think that just enhances the character even more and makes him even more fully developed. And I think that that's just incredible. And I like the fact that a lot of this movie is not him in the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, definitely. It was like it shows that he may be Iron Man, but he doesn't always need the suit to be an effective detective and superhero. So,
and I think that probably has something to do with Shane Black and the choices that he made, because I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
that was a great movie.
I love that movie, and I definitely saw similarities with Iron Man 3 and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because there are elements in Iron Man 3 where he is kind of playing a detective, and it turns into almost this like espionage type thing where he's figuring out what's going on, and he doesn't have the suit and he has to like improvise.
Yeah.
And I think that's all great. The Mandarin I thought was a great villain for the most part. I don't want to get too deep into that character because there could be potential for big spoilers there, and I think that we are. Right. I think we will do a spoiler section because I do want to talk about that. But
yeah, I've talked to friends regarding that stuff, and people have been mixed. So
yeah. So before we get into the spoiler section, is there anything else you want to add about maybe the broad strokes of the film in general?
I just love I'm sure most people who are fans of the site have seen Phase 1, and if this is where Phase 2 is starting, I really like how the broad stroke, it's very much darker. The Avengers as an event, as something that's discussed in Iron Man 3, is the Avengers opened up Pandora's box, and characters are like referencing New York. Characters are referencing Thor and saying, it's like, yeah, it was like, once that big guy with the hammer came down, all bets are off. And Tony's like saying, after New York, things have changed, and we see what happens with him. But I'm hoping that this is where it's going for Phase 2, because personally, I'm just waiting for that moment where Tony Stark looks down and says, "There's a talking raccoon."
And
waiting for that moment.
That's
which will,
yeah,
so,
you know that's going to happen. But I think that you bring up a good point. I also want to quickly mention that this is a very funny movie. There's a lot of comedy in this movie, and it nearly all of it works, at least in my opinion. I thought that it was very funny.
I think my favorite line was when he was talking to a kid about his father who abandoned him.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to give the line away, but it was just really
very funny. I loved the dynamic between him and that kid was great too.
Yeah. In most movies, or in other hands, it might have been very cheesy or lame or come off as unnecessary almost, but it worked for this movie.
Yeah, and I want to go back briefly to what you were saying about how this is a darker movie, and it is a darker movie, and I think that might have caused some division with fans, because some people are kind of lamenting the fact that everything has to be dark, since The Dark Knight, all these superhero movies have to be dark, and this is a darker film than the other two, but I don't think that they made it dark just to be trendy or anything like that. What I'm hoping is that this is all a build up to the Avengers too, and I'm hoping that all of the movies that we see in this Phase 2 business are darker, because I'm hoping that they take an Empire Strikes Back approach to it and make it kind of a more grim movie, so that in Phase 3 they can bring things back up and we can all save the day and everything can be bright.
With, I guess, I can't remember if they said, is Thanos the villain for 2, or he's being saved for 3? I can't remember.
I think he's going to be the villain, yeah. But I think that he's going to be the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that he's also going to be the villain in the Avengers too. But that's, of course, all crazy rumors.
Because I mean, just reading up on that character alone, and you know how it's definitely going to get darker by the time we get to 2, if they're following that character's arc.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And, so I guess maybe this is just like getting the audience ready.
And I mean, Thor 2's called, what isn't it called, like the Dark World?
Yeah, the Dark World.
So,
and just seeing that trailer, you're like, yeah, this is definitely different than the first one.
Yeah, so. we don't have a lot of information on the new Captain America yet, but I think it's pretty safe to assume it's going to be darker.
Yeah, the subtitle is The Winter Soldier, and I didn't know who that was until I saw the Avengers animated TV show.
Oh yeah,
which if you haven't seen, is a fantastic series. You know, that was my introduction to the Avengers, and saw, like, it was the last episode of the last season was probably could have been an amazing movie if they ever made it. But yeah, so if they do go with that Winter Soldier arc, that will be a dark one too. So.
Oh, I think that they're gonna. From what I read, they're going to do back and forth with flashbacks on the new one to see where he comes from and everything. I don't want to say who it is because I don't know if people know who that is. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about some spoilers for Iron Man 3. So if you haven't seen the film yet, please, we'll put the time code in the show notes. So just skip over this part, and we're now in a spoiler section. So I guess we can start off by talking about the Mandarin. Mm-hmm. And what did you think about how they did that with him not really being the Mandarin and all that stuff? Yeah.
Did you know who the Mandarin was? Did you read the comics at all?
I knew that. I was never a fan of the Iron Man comics, so I didn't know the Mandarin too well. But if I'm not mistaken, he was like the big arch villain to Iron Man, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to be, I guess, the Joker.
Yeah.
To Batman. But yeah, I never really read the comics, and I knew of the Mandarin, especially when Iron Man 1 came out and people were talking about the 10 rings and whatever that was. Mm-hmm. And there was always like, oh, Mandarin. It's like saying, and I just read cursory descriptions of who the character was. I was like, okay. And then based on the trailer, I'm like, this looks like a really cool villain. But when the reveal was that he isn't who he says he was, I thought that was brilliant. I was like dying laughing. I was expecting, it's like saying the Joker. It's like the Joker suddenly takes his mask off and it's Robin Williams. And you're like, what? And but I thought that was great. I mean, I'm sure that is definitely something that will irritate the hell out of diehard fans. But for people, I think I've heard descriptions like, if you're not a fan of the series, you'll love it. But if you know the character intimately, you're gonna hate it. And I can see how it is. I mean, it's like for me, it's like when they took Jack Nicholson's Joker and made him the killer of Bruce's parents, when everybody knows it was just some random criminal who got away. So I'm like, But I love that Shane Black took that gamble and did that. And obviously Marvel would obviously have final script approval, and they were totally for it, because otherwise it wouldn't have been that way. But I really loved how they handled it. Where you're thinking, I was like, okay, is he trying to pull the wool over Stark's eyes? Is he caught? And he's like trying to like deflect and like make him think that he's not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time.
Yeah, and then he's gonna pull the rug out from under him. It's like, I am the Mandarin. I just got you. And then, but then like, it's like, no, he really is Trevor.
Well, I mean,
and Ben Kingsley was amazing in that.
Yeah, I loved his kind of transformation in that. I thought that was great. And it also kind of makes up for the weird voice that he would do as the Mandarin as well. But I mean, I guess it could still be that he was pulling the wool over our eyes, you know? I mean, he doesn't get killed in it or anything, so maybe he is. But
it could be like a Ra's al Ghul thing where it was like, is he alive or is he dead? It's like,
yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it too much. I thought that it was an interesting choice because the whole time, like you said, I was like wondering, like, is it a double? Is it not really him? Is he pretending? Like, what's going on here? And I think that it was kind of funny that they just went with it. And I love how Tony Stark even says, well, you're a double, right? Like, you're not the real guy.
It's like, what? Wait a minute. Yeah, and so, I thought that was an entertaining twist on a villain, especially one that's built up to seeing it's like, okay, this is probably going to be a real malicious guy. It's like,
now,
it's like,
what did you think of Pepper getting the injection with the crazy super serum stuff?
I didn't really mind that too much. I mean, I guess as it progressed, actually probably after her, fortunately we're in the spoiler section, hopefully I was thinking after her death, her quote unquote death, and then I realized like, oh wait, she's got the serum.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is she going to be like another superhero too? So I was thinking they were going that route, but then I guess once you get to the very end, then that'll kind of clear things up. But I didn't mind too much.
I thought it was okay, but one of the nitpicks that I have is if she falls 200 feet into essentially an explosion with flames, she falls into fire, and she walks out, and none of her hair is burnt, none of her clothes are burnt off. It was just normal. Like, don't you think?
Well, I guess that is true.
It's a nitpick.
And on the other characters, that same thing where they burn up, but they still have their clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Their clothes don't burn off. The only clothes that burn off are Guy Pearce's shirt. Like that was it. His shirt burned off, so that we could see his.
Yeah, I think it was totally burned at the end. But yeah, I remember other guys, especially the main villain, the main henchman. I think he goes full flame on, and he still has his clothes.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I thought
that's a nitpick.
That's a nitpick, but it wasn't enough to bother me, really. I know that some people are probably really bothered by a lot of the things that go on in this movie, but I mean, the box office numbers are certainly, you know.
Yeah, 175.3 opening weekend.
It's going to be, what, number 2 of all time, next to Avengers?
Time. Yep.
So, yeah. Any other spoilers you want to talk about before we get out of this?
Obviously, the ending where he has the shards finally removed.
Yeah, and I thought, again, I don't read the comic books, so I'm not sure if that happened in the comic books, but I kind of wish that they didn't do that, because I always liked that that's kind of an underlying issue, something that he always has to be aware of and be concerned about.
Yeah.
And I think that
to tie in with that, he was like, hey, this one's mostly about his worries and concerns, that he can't protect the people he loves, and I guess having the shards in him could easily prevent him from doing that. But the way the movie unfolded with Tony spending most of the time out of the suit, I really think they were preparing the audience for when he comes back to not spend as much time in the suit as before. And he's still, like, as they show, he's still just as good as a crime fighter and detective without the suit. So, and even without the shards and the arc reactor in his chest, he can still use the suit.
Right.
I mean, just like Rhodes doesn't have the arc reactor.
Yeah, exactly.
He's able to use the War Machine or Iron Patriot as it is in here. So I definitely can see that going down. And it's when you see the end, people are like, oh, I remember hearing one person booing at the end, and then people are like, oh, is it over? I can't believe he did that. And it's like, Stark Tower is still standing in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
So there's obviously still Iron Man suits there.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see, because, you know, he decided to blow all of the Iron Man suits up, and I'm not sure why he did that. Like, he decided that he wanted to do that, because we know.
Well, starts impulsive, and that's probably just to appease his girlfriend at that moment, and he obviously must have noticed more all over the place.
Yeah, you know that on his drive home, he was regretting that. Like, fuck. There was that.
I mean, he drove away with the machine that helps him put the stuff together.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, he's not done.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of suit he comes up with next.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the end teaser I kind of enjoyed, where he was using Bruce Banner as a therapist.
Oh yeah.
Banner falls asleep and is like, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. That was like the shawarma.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
stinger.
very much like that. And it really wasn't setting anything up. It was just like a cute tag.
I kind of wish to see some maybe Guardians of the Galaxy footage, or Ant-Man, or even Captain America. That would have been nice, but whatever.
Yeah, we'll probably get that in Thor or something.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get out of this spoiler zone here. So, Iron Man 3, probably, what do you think? Do you think it's going to beat Superman, Man of Steel this summer?
That's hard to call. I mean, for Man of Steel, it took me a while to finally warm up to what Zack Snyder was doing. But I have a feeling Iron Man will probably beat it, because based on Superman Returns, which opened big, but then faded away, I have a feeling Superman is just not as big as characters in the Marvelverse.
Yeah,
even though he's like he's the granddaddy, but
Superman Returns, I think Iron Man's gonna beat that gross in its first week, because I think Superman Returns made something like 200 million or something like that, 200, 250, and
yeah, but they still considered it a flop, oddly enough.
Yeah, and Iron Man 3 is already at 175 in its first week, so.
First weekend,
yeah. Anyway,
probably a 250 by the first week.
I mean, it as of now, it's not going to beat the Avengers for number one, but who knows? It might.
Yeah, it could very well end up being the number one movie of the year. So.
Was your theater packed? Because I know mine was.
Yeah, mine was one of the bigger theaters, and I would say 90%, 95% full. And they were playing into like 7 screens.
Yeah, it was packed. So,
and the audience was pretty stoked for pretty much everything.
I think it goes without saying, but if you haven't seen Iron Man 3 yet, go out and see it now. Actually, did you see it in 3D?
I did not see it in 3D.
I didn't either. So,
my friends saw it in 3D, and they're saying it was cool in 3D, but you don't really need to see it in 3D. I'm like, okay.
I made a decision that I'm not going to see any 3D movies unless it's actually shot in 3D from now on.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm trying to make that decision. I know I'm seeing Star Trek in IMAX 3D, but that was before I heard that it was post 3D. But I'll still see it in IMAX because it's supposed to be reformatted for IMAX screens.
Yeah, that'll still be good. So, all right, Iron Man 3. You gave it an 8 out of 10 on the site. Yep. I'm also going to give it an 8 out of 10. So. Definitely worth checking out. Let's move on. Talk about some predictions. Next week we have, and these are Rotten Tomatoes predictions, by the way. Mm-hmm. So next week we have The Great Gatsby. What are you thinking on this?
It's Baz, so it would be a mixed bag. I would probably go 69.
Okay.
On that one. I mean, I'm still not sure.
Yeah, well, same here. I think that I'm going to go see it, but...
I mean, I know I got to see it in 3D because it was shot in 3D, but I'm still wondering, why was it shot in 3D?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say like a 74 on that, I guess, 74. And then we have Peoples.
Not directed by Tyler Perry, but presented by Tyler Perry.
Oh, I didn't even know it was presented by him. That's terrible.
Yeah, I'm not even sure who the director is.
I'm gonna guess 15 on that.
Yeah, that might be kind. I'll go 10.
That's pretty much it for wide release stuff. We do have Aftershock hitting theaters in limited release next weekend, and that's not directed by Eli Roth. I know a lot of people think that, but it's just presented by him and it stars him. But what do you think? We won't predict these, but just what do you think as far as, are you going to go see Aftershock? Are you interested in it?
It's probably more of a curiosity. I can't remember when or where I saw the trailer, but when I saw the trailer, like, I didn't know what it was, but like, oh, okay. But once you get beyond the whole earthquake angle of it, it just seems to fall into like something like Judgment Night or any other survive the night thrillers in gangland territory. So, I mean, beyond the earthquake thing, I don't know how good it could possibly be. So, yeah, I'll still see it, but I'm not too sure. It's gonna be any good.
Same here. I mean, this played the festivals last year, and I think that it got pretty mixed reviews. Like you said, the whole earthquake thing is cool and trying to survive and get out after an earthquake, but then apparently there's like a killer, like somebody that was in that club with them is a killer, and so they're trying to escape from him as well. So it turns into this like slasher that incorporates like a disaster film.
He's a killer who uses earthquakes and then hunts down his victims.
That's what he does. He just waits. He waits for the earthquake, then he strikes.
Yeah. He strikes like maybe once in a blue moon.
I pretty much see every horror movie, so I'll probably be checking this out when I get a chance. I doubt it's going to be playing in my area, but the other one that I'm actually quite interested in, and we will be reporting on this next week, is Sightseers, Ben Wheatley's new film. And this is the guy that directed Kill List, which I absolutely loved. So
I thought that was a great movie.
I'm very interested to see Sightseers, but we will be reporting on that next week. All right, DVD and Blu Ray releases. This is for Tuesday, May 7th, 2013. We have Jack Reacher. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah, same here.
Of interesting note, without giving out too much of a spoiler, I know there was a big deal with Gangster Squad being delayed because of the shootout in Aurora. I thought that was like kind of was disappointed in that. But with Jack Reacher, there is an event that is just as potent. And I distinctly remember hearing gasps in the audience as it's going down. I'm like, I'm amazed they didn't pull this one. I mean, like, okay.
Yeah.
But I still thought it was pretty effective.
Yeah, there were gasps in the theater when I saw this too, and just that whole opening scene was the way that they shot it, how there was like almost no sound at all, and that was incredible. But overall, I thought that it was a slightly just above average action movie, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I liked it. Crew's going around kicking ass.
Yeah. Then we have Mama. I did not get a chance to see this, but I'll probably be checking it out when it comes out this week.
I think somebody reviewed it on the site and they kind of liked it. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I might check this out. Then we have Safe Haven, Nicholas Sparks. I know that nobody wanted to review this.
I was kind of disappointed that I missed that one. But a funny tie-in with Safe Haven was I was on a plane flying back from, I guess it was the East Coast, and they have on the TVs you can watch whatever you want. I was watching The Walking Dead. I asked me what the person next to me was watching. He's this big burly guy who looks like a UFC fighter. He was watching Safe Haven. I'm like, really? Okay, I guess he wants his, he gets in touch with his emotional side. I was like, cool.
Whatever.
Yeah, I skipped that.
Whatever. Yeah, I would skip that one. Also, we have Starlet coming out. This got nominated for quite a few Independent Spirit Awards. I didn't get a chance to see it back then, but I am interested.
Yeah, I wanted to see that at AFI, but all the screenings were sold out last year, so I totally missed that one.
Yeah, I am interested in that one as well. And then finally, we have Superman Unbound. This is one of these direct-to-DVD DC animated movies, and I actually like most of these. I remember there was one that came out a couple years ago called Justice League Doom, I think, and that was really good.
I think the last one I saw was can't remember the name of it, but it dealt with Red something? Red.
Oh,
not Red Hood?
Yeah, that was the Red Hood one. That one was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was the Batman one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. Since then, they came out with Justice League Doom, and then there was a Batman. There's a 2-part Batman one that came out.
The Dark Knight Returns
Dark Knight
adaptation, which I haven't seen yet.
And I actually did not like that one. Most people were really into that one, but for whatever reason, I just didn't. I don't like Peter Weller was the voice of Batman in that. And he's the
RoboCop?
Yeah, RoboCop. And I couldn't get past that. So, I don't know.
Step away from your vehicle, there will be trouble. I'm Batman.
Yeah, I could not get past that. But Superman Unbound, I'll probably check that out too, just to see. Generally, not that into Superman stories, but who knows? It might be decent. So,
yep.
All right, I think that wraps it up. For all the latest film news and reviews, visit us at filmpulse.net. We want to hear your feedback. Send us an email at feedback@filmpulse.net. Follow us on Twitter at filmpulse.net, and be sure to rate us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. For filmpulse.net, my name is Adam.
And this is Ernie.
And we will see you on Wednesday for Ryan Watches a Movie.